Gerard Ahern,
Present.
Brad Reed,
Present.
Andy Kishitz,
Here.
Brian Holmes,
Here.
Gabrielle Lomano,
Here.
and Elizabeth Hutchins.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so this is the continuation for the 1/11 to 2020 initial hearing for the 50 Golden Run Road variance request. And again, for just background, it's a very request for a side yard setback to locate a 24 by 30 pole barn 30 feet from the abutted property line. At the initial hearing, we had asked the applicant to formalize the butters concurrence with the proposed barn structure and the placement. And we asked if there's the applicant to obtain some drawings or some type of overview of what the barn is supposed to look like, so we had an idea of what we would be approving if we had a motion to approve the application. So we did get two items. One dated 1/10/2022, which is a circle bar drawings and details, and then we have a email from the resident of 44 Golden Run Road. I believe it's Scott Lindblad, that was sent to Valerie. Is that correct, Valerie?
Yes, and then there's one more item that was sent over this morning that is available online. It is an image of the turnaround area as existing.
Oh, was that the plot? Was that the plot?
It's
Can you bring it up?
It's like a photograph. Yeah.
I can show it. Yes.
So Circle B sent over a plot with, they sent over a couple of things. First was the renderings, and the second was a plot where the barn's going to be sited. So that's already sent over, and I sent over pictures on Saturday.
Okay.
A picture on Saturday of the site.
Are you able to see this?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, there's the image here. Can you just click on that?
So are you seeing the image?
No, we're not seeing the image, just the
No,
website.
just the website.
The website, yeah.
Interesting. I am seeing the image.
You probably shared your browser and the image is a different program.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Hey,
Let me,
Chris and Margaret, I was just noting that the application itself says something about the building being within 30 feet, but the most recent plot plan has numbers of 20 and 28 feet. So I just want to make sure we clarify exactly what we would be approving there.
Yeah, that was just my estimate, but I measured it. We went out and measured. So the plot plan attached to the renderings, that's correct. Those measurements, 20 and 28 feet.
Okay, so 20 feet is really what we should be discussing here, right? So because that's the minimum setback we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
all right, now can you see it?
It's got a basketball hoop on it?
Okay.
And what does that represent, that picture?
That's where the barn would be. It'd be at the end of the turnaround, just a few feet off the driveway going back.
So behind
Behind the basketball net.
the basketball net and in front of the, because you have that area where you had, looks like a cage set up. Is that the batting cage?
Yeah, that's about 100 feet back. Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
perfect.
the barn's only 30 feet, so it'll be well in front of that.
Okay, it's just pictorially, it looks pretty close. So I was like, yeah. Right.
The hoop will be gone and it'll just be a few feet off the turnaround.
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
So that tree that's in that picture, I'm assuming that's on your land. Are you gonna take that tree down? It's, again, it's hard to kind of tell from this perspective how
Mhm.
far away that is, or like where it lies in association with where the barn will be.
Behind, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see the neighbor's fence if you look.
Mhm.
It's hard to see, but it's behind that giant pine, about 10 feet behind it.
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah.
that might have to go. That's pretty far back, but you know, it's well over 30 feet back, but they probably will recommend that. With all the excavation that will have to be done, I'll probably end up, if they don't.
My advice is take down the pine, to
Yeah.
be honest. But yeah, okay. I can see the fence in this photo. So I'm assuming the fence is the property line then, or is that what you're assuming to be the property line?
It should be, yeah, that was there from, you know, when we bought the house, so,
And that's the abutters fence, or is
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
yeah.
So either way, because we would be, it looks like if we were to motion to approve it, it would be within 20 feet from the abutters property line. Is that how?
It wouldn't be within 20 feet. It would be, the back end for my measurement would be about 20, 21 feet off the fence.
We could say
The
no
front end-
closer than 20 feet?
The front end would be 28 feet, but it's an angle. To be honest, I can offset it. I'm trying to do it symmetric with the driveway, if you know what I mean, but you know, I can offset it, you know, to make sure it's at least 20 feet. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but even where I want it, it's going to be a little over 20 feet way in the back at the end of the barn.
So we, as like I said, Andy, it would be no closer than 20 feet. I think that's, if we do the motion, that probably how we have to word it.
Agree.
And again, that's where you're showing on this photo. That's where you represented to the abutter, the proposal for the barn.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Because in his letter, I mean, his email, which is fine, you know, he just stated that he's, you know, you've approached him about the barn and he's comfortable with the sort of the barn and the placement, you know, but it was no specifics in his email about the dimensions of like how close or whatever. So I just want to be sure that, you know, this is the same areas that his expectation is where it would be.
You know, he didn't send me a copy. He just, he texted me that night that he was going to send something over, but I didn't get a copy of it, but I told
Valerie,
him
can Valerie can probably bring that up on the screen as well so that everyone can see that.
Sorry, the internet's a little slow here.
It's okay. So as it says here, I just want to let you know, Chris Bashara did inform me of his plans to build as well as the location of the building. And we have no objections with regard to this. So I just want to make sure that from my understanding that where you've represented is what you've told them is, you know, where you build the location.
Yeah.
Okay. You know. Okay, and then was that plot plan from before, Valerie, or is that the one that came with the new materials from Circle Barn?
I believe it came with the materials from Circle Barn.
I sent one that looks like that with my application, but that one.
Right.
Right, this is similar, okay.
So this is the one that I think Andy was mentioning that shows the 28 feet at one angle and 20 feet from the other end of the barn.
Right. The 28, yeah, I see what you're saying. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, right there where they annotate the 20 plus and the 20, yeah. Mhm. Okay. And the barn, did everyone have an opportunity to look at the plans, you know, the rendition?
Yes.
Mhm. Right, so for the applicant's benefit, this is typically what, when we get a variance request for some type of structure being built, well, it may not say it in the application file. I mean, usually so that we know what we're trying to review, so that we know what we're permitting. If we are to approve something, we like to have some type of image and likeness where, it may not be the final, but at least we have some, preliminary plans, a look, and, we can, if we have a motion to approve it, it would be like in substantial conformity with these plans, so that, all of a sudden it wasn't something totally different, something bigger, something, but it helps us, and as well as, anyone looking at the application, someone were to appeal it or just, review it, you'd say, okay, the board has a good understanding of what they're actually approving. So,
And I would say if the applicant chose to put the single door on the other side of the barn, I wouldn't think that would be any significant change in the presentation. Just saying that if they decided they wanted the door on the house side rather than away from the house as it's looking right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
right, yeah. No, I mean, because it's just usually, if we say in substantial conformity, yeah.
Right, I'm just saying it in advance that's
No,
not, I don't
no.
think that's
Okay.
substantial if they were to
No,
change
that's
where the door is.
Right, that's a good point, Andy, but yeah, so, yeah, that's why I wouldn't say the exact image and likeness of this, because they may have some modifications that get done, but at least it's substantially, what we're looking at. Mhm. So,
Other than that, it looks good to me.
yeah, I think,
Yep.
I appreciate the applicant, going and taking the extra steps that we requested, because it does give us an understanding of what we're looking at and what the, what the neighborhood will have to look at as well, to the extent people see it,
Mhm.
Well, looks good to me.
Yeah, I'm good with it as well.
So we want to entertain a motion to approve the variance request.
I might just jump in, just
Sure.
ask if the board wants to close the public hearing tonight. I think it would be then appropriate to vote on a draft decision at the meeting of February 1st. There's, I believe, if the vote was taken today, the decision would need to be filed with the town clerk within 14 days.
Mhm.
And our next meeting is 14 days away, so
Sure.
it's a timing issue.
Mhm.
So I'm just proposing if the public hearing is closed tonight, then I could have a draft decision ready and on the agenda for February 1st.
We wouldn't have to vote on that, right? I mean, that's just a normal process. Once we, once we have a vote to close the public portion, and then we have a vote to either approve it or deny it with, conditions, and then, then the process starts. You do your draft, we approve it, and then, sign it off.
Yeah, I think that there's 14 days that I have between a vote to approve a decision and the filing with the town clerk.
Right.
So if there was a vote made tonight, it would need to be filed with the town clerk by end of business on February 1st.
Mhm.
And I think there's also just a push in town to have decisions be reviewed at an open meeting rather than approval through email.
Okay.
So I know it might be a bit of a change from past practice, but I think my recommendation is just to close tonight, and then to have an item on the agenda. It wouldn't need to be a public hearing, but just under business discussion and approval of the draft decision.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine with me.
I will make a motion to close the hearing tonight. proceed with the draft decision.
So do we have to make the motion to what we're gonna? No, that's just gonna close public, and then we can motion to, if there's any discussion or what the,
Right, so then the next vote would happen on the 1st.
no, the next vote is, our vote is to either approve or to, the application or not, right? So,
How have we done this in the past? Wouldn't we, in the past, we might have approved tonight and just said that, then we would also have a motion to have Gerard sign like on our behalf or something, right? Is that
right,
how we would normally do that? Or how we have done that in the past, I guess?
right. So we were.
So, so I think the best practice is to allow members to review the decision and
Mhm.
give you the opportunity to make edits.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you are trusting me to write the correct conditions in there, which, I mean, it's up to you.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
it's just if you want to see the decision or not.
No, I think we should, right, we can close the public portion, so we don't take any more comment. We can vote on the, to approve or deny the variance, and then we could vote that they could authorize me to sign the decision on behalf of the board, but that always happens after you've distributed a set to review, and if we have to review it in open hearing, that's fine, but then whatever comments are, then I will at least have the vote that says, to the extent they want it signed by me on their behalf, I can sign it whenever it's ready.
Yeah, I think it's town council would prefer review of decisions to happen at a public meeting rather than comments sent to me through email. Yeah.
All right, so then we'll do that all at the next meeting then, as you say, on the
At the 1st, yeah.
first. Okay, all right, so. All right, so we have a motion to close the public hearing portion. Was that seconded?
Not yet.
Second.
Second by Brian. Okay,
And those in favor, Brad Reed,
Aye.
Andy Kishitz,
Yes,
Gerard Ahern,
yes,
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Hutchins.
Yes.
Okay.
all right. So from the review of the materials, it looks like the board was pretty much in favor of all the additional information we received. So we would need a motion to approve the variance with the condition that the placement would be no less than 20 feet away from the abutting property line and in substantial conformity with the plans presented by Circle Barn.
So I think that would be the vote that would be taken February 1st.
so do we need a motion to draft the decision or not?
No,
Okay,
no. So essentially voting on the approval of a variance is the same thing as voting on the conditions in the decision. So what I've taken from the discussion tonight and last week is that we are looking to see what a favorable decision would look like. So that's how I'll be drafting it, and we can review the decisions on the 1st.
Okay, so that is a process-wise just for the abutters. So this is a little different than how we normally would have, of course. So if there's some indication from the town council or town that they want these types of things done at an open hearing with the decision, then yes. So normally we close the hearing, have a motion to approve or deny, and then our administrator would draft up the decision based on these facts, and then, we would have already had the vote and we would just review the decisions. Now it looks like they want the vote and the review contemporaneous.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
it won't change
So-
the timeline because it's still, we have
Okay.
14 days to get the opinion done and we'll decide it on the same day. So,
Okay,
Yeah, right. So the timing stays the same. We just have to do it live on the 1st.
okay.
okay. So, so then we're all set.
Okay,
You can anticipate
we'll
a positive decision, it looks like, and then we'll, get it documented and signed off and then you'll have once that's signed,
Yeah.
or voted on, then there's a period of appeal period, so that, right, Valerie? Before it gets actually, right, so at that meeting, Valerie will explain, what the appeal period is and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Appeal period for,
after February 1st, there's an appeal period, is what you're saying,
So-
right? Like a week or
Right,
two,
so-
something like that? Okay.
So essentially, the board is going to approve or deny, but approve a variance, right? And then after that, I'll have 14 days to get that filed with the town clerk, which means that the board has to come in, sign the decision, and then once it's filed with the town clerk, it'll stay there for 20 days. In that time period, any abutter could appeal it. And then once those 20 days have passed, I'll contact you again and I'll send you, I'll arrange with you to pick up an original copy of that decision for you to go record at the Worcester County Registry of Deeds.
Okay,
And then
Okay.
then you're all set.
Right, so.
okay,
Yeah.
So they're always, and that's with all our application, there's a open public appeal period. It's not something we putting on this application. It's just part of the process.
yeah, sure. Okay, we'll let the process do its thing and take place, and Valerie will wait to hear from you.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. Yeah, I'll be in contact.
Any questions, I'll just call you, so. sounds
Perfect.
good? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you,
Perfect.
everybody.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
take care, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry about that. So looking for a little bit of a different process moving forward. I think that some boards can get in trouble from having too much back and forth through email. So just trying to make sure everything's going on at an open meeting.
Yeah, because we don't, what we don't do as part of the zoning board is we don't have the back and forth between the board because we don't want to skirt the open meeting law. So typically any communication, if you send it out to the board, like we individually respond, here's my comment, Andy, here's his comment, and then
Yeah.
we do a final comment and then, type of thing. So yeah, we try not to have those interboard discussions because then yes, we're outside the meeting law.
Yeah, so it'll be important just thinking of in the future for 580 Main and Mallard Lane, when we're reviewing a decision, that will also have to be in an open meeting. So it's going to require more board time at meetings, but I think hopefully it'll be a more transparent process for residents.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're still a few minutes early here for our next one.
so the next one, only thing we have to do on that one typically, just process-wise, so that given tonight, if we say because of the limited information that's been provided, we just need a motion to continue to another date, and that's going to either be February 7th or 8th or 10th. Which was there a date that was decided upon?
I think we have a problem with that, don't we?
Yeah, we do have a problem with that. It seems like there's differences on the board of when you're all available. The applicant would prefer February 10th.
Okay,
So
That
we
worked for
can-
me.
Oh, I think I misread that.
Yeah, your response was you can only do the 7th, I think. You only responded about
Well,
this.
I only responded about the 7th because I think I read that. I thought they wanted the 7th. I can do the 10th.
And I can do the 10th. So if, because then we can just,
I'm good on the 10th, yeah.
we can just propose the 10th at, was it at 6 PM or 6:30? The people earlier than later?
I
I'd
prefer
rather
earlier,
6.
but I'll go with whatever the people want.
Yeah.
Is Gabrielle available for that one? I think she's a member. You're voting on that one, right?
Yep, I am. The 10th is fine. 6 or 6:30 doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So,
Okay.
it would be
10th it
6,
is.
you know.
Now I'm confused. What time is it? 6 or 6:30
It'll be 6. We'll propose it for 6 PM.
6 PM on 10th? Okay. And which one is this, Mallard or,
That will be that will be 580 Main,
oh, 580, okay.
right? This is gonna be 580.
Write
Next
all this
Mallard
down.
Lane is February 1st at 6.
Right. Mhm,
Okay.
So 2 weeks from now.
mhm.
All right.
Is, will the Bacharas be handled before Mallard Lane or after?
Good point. So if Mallard Lane is at 6, I mean, we could meet at 5:45 or 5:30. I don't think it'll take too long, say 5:45, or we could, we could put something on the agenda for 6:30, and we could kind of interrupt the Mallard Lane public hearing to do Bachara and then go back to Mallard Lane.
I'd be fine with like 5:45. I mean,
I think that'd be easiest if you're all available then.
Works for me.
Okay. Okay. So 5:45, review decision, review and vote on the decision.
hopefully you guys aren't texting me at 5:47 saying, where the heck are you?
I won't text you, I'll just email you. How'd your rink survive the weather, Brian?
It's actually good. Mine's actually nice and smooth right now.
Yeah. Right.
But it was actually fortunate that it warmed up and rained because
Yeah, I was looking forward to shoveling slush, but so it worked out.
it worked
Hey,
out well.
did they win yesterday, Brian?
They got creamed.
Okay.
9-1.
Oh, so much for their high ranking, right?
So much for an undefeated season. They probably needed to get knocked down a few pegs. How's that?
Wow. What team is that? Neshoba?
The Shoba.
The hockey team played Marlboro. Both teams were undefeated, and Marlboro
Right.
killed them. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Is Marlboro a lot bigger?
You know what? They weren't. They actually they had a couple of larger kids, but the smaller kids were actually the ones that were doing the damage. And they were doing the damage both on the scoreboard and physically. They were a much better team. They were very fast. It was an interesting game to watch.
Unless you're you were the goalie.
Yeah, he got pulled.
Oh, yeah.
It was ugly.
Blinded by the red lights.
Yep.
So Valerie, given the limited information that was reviewed or provided since last year, will the applicant not be participating tonight? So that.
No, I let them know that I gave them the opportunity to either continue or just have a discussion tonight anyhow. But it is their preference to continue, so I don't expect them to come tonight.
Okay, so we have the board here, and we have a couple of butters or residents online. So I'll just note that this is the continuation from the December 13th meeting we had on the Alta Neshoba Valley 580 Main process. At the time of our last hearing, we had indicated that we were going to have Horsey Witten Group do our engineering peer review. By the time we contracted with them and they got up to speed, we recently learned that they won't have their detailed peer review report done until the week of January 31st, 2022. So given that that's really the substance of how we then really start reviewing this application, we decided as a, with the applicant that, we don't really have a ton of new material. We had a copy of a presentation that they gave to the select board. It was a PowerPoint presentation. It was undated, but with the limited information, rather than try to waste the board's time or the residents' time on just limited, we're looking at continuing this hearing until February 10th at 6 p.m. Is that what we're looking at, Valerie?
That sounds right.
And at that time, the applicant will have received the report from Horsey Witten. We would have received the report from Horsey Witten. Horsey Witten will be able to present it that night, and hopefully we'll be able to have some robust feedback from the applicant because they will have already had time to see it and review it. So we may have lost a little time in tonight's hearing, but at least we can maybe ramp it back up at the next hearing.
I have just a quick comment on the information that was sent. I guess it was a presentation to the Board of Selectmen at what was probably a private meeting at the time, but I asked for some impact figures, which they sent along a couple of things. I think one of them was interesting, was Boxborough as a comparative town was it's 240 units, I think, and they were estimating that the number of school children would be 38. And if you round that out to 40 units, 40 children entering the school system, you've basically wiped out all the tax benefits, and you haven't taken care of public safety or any other administrative costs of the town. So it's just a point of information. I think for the town, it's going to put a tax burden increase on the town.
Yeah, right, right, because it's that's where, as Joe Pesnola indicated at the last thing. Unfortunately, we have our hands tied a little bit on how much.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Right. So you throw out a number, because even in that presentation, I was hoping that some of it was maybe you would see how that sort of calculated to that point, but you really can't. It's just a number in their presentation too. But there are some figures around, as you said, in some of the comps that they provided, but still. Yeah.
No, but the town has to plan on, increased revenues to support this. So something.
Oh, right. And increase burden to support it. It's not only revenue, but right. Fire, EMT, everything.
Police, fire, schools. It adds 10% to the population of the town. So it's, anyway, just a noting. The figure that they presented, that may be on the low side. I don't know, but
well, again, that made it sound like that was going to be positive to the town, but certainly that's going to get exhausted by once we sort of see what numbers they as we get more information about the application. If they do an estimate of school age children and things like that for this one, we'll sort of know how we're dealing with it.
Like Bob has a hand up.
What's that, Andy?
Looks like Bob Sikansky has a hand up.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
Is this appropriate?
We're in open. We haven't.
Okay.
closed,
I was just wondering what information Brad based that statement on, that this was going to cost the town money and there wouldn't be any tax advantage to it?
Well, Bob, according to the State Department of Education, cost for the Neshoba pupil in the district is $17,500 something per. If you multiply that by 38 or 40 kids, you wiped out the $700,000 in taxes, and you haven't taken care of any public safety or administrative costs for the town.
Okay, so I'm not going to dispute the 17,500 number, but that's an average of the students, right?
It's the average of what?
But that's the average cost per student.
Yes.
So that number incorporates the superintendent's salary, the debt that the schools has. It incorporates, the heating expenses of the schools in Lancaster and Stowe, none of which are going to go up with this project.
No, they won't go. They won't necessarily go up, but there's going to be proportionally there'll be some increase, and I don't know what that is.
An average doesn't extend out. You really want to be looking at the marginal cost of every student. If one student comes in, for example, just to take an extreme point, if one student comes into Bolton, really the only expense is an additional bus stop, right? It's not $17,000 when one student comes in. So if you've got 40 students, you've got to look at the marginal cost of that. And what would go into that? Well, as I said, there's a whole bunch of costs that are not going to be affected by that. And depending on the smattering of what the ages are, you might very well fit 15 or 20 students into Florence Sawyer and the high school with no incremental cost at all.
But doesn't that shift the burden to the town? Knows they still do a per pupil count and then shift the tax burden portion to the town based on how many students we have. So I'm not sure how that works out.
But they don't. But it's not an additional $17,000 in cost per student, right? If you get if you get to 20 students, I think at that point, you're going to need another classroom in some grade. So there you're looking at $100,000, $120,000 for salary plus, benefits, unemployment and health insurance and all that stuff. I think a marginal cost per student of $5,000 is a lot more realistic than $17,000.
Oh, that may be. I'm just trying to put a figure together, and of course, we're getting no help from the proponent of this. So I don't know what the final cost of the town is going to be. But
okay,
I throw that out there. I'm no expert on it. I just went to the state and saw what the costs were, and since there's not going to be any help from anyone else to see what the impact is going to be in the town, I figured I'd at least bring the issue up.
Okay. I'm sure this is something, for example, I think the advisory committee should be looking into also, right?
Well, we can't change it anyway. I mean, it's going to happen. So it's just, by the way, we ought to look at this and see what it's really going to cost us rather than be hit by blindsided by it. That's all.
And if the police and fire requirements are entering into, or the fire and police and EMS requirements are entering into your consideration, I suggest you invite the fire chief and the police chief to come in and ask them directly what they see as the effects of this project on their budgets. So
Yeah, well, the
that's,
police
that's,
chief has already commented on it, and he said,
Okay.
you know, it's, you know, he wasn't sure either what is, but he felt that at least they'd have to hire one more officer, and
Mhm.
the fire department really hasn't commented at all, to my knowledge at this point, so.
okay.
But
Since
you have
the
a
burden
major
isn't,
complex, so I don't know how a volunteer fire department is going to be able to deal with it, but that's neither here nor there.
well,
Okay.
since the burden isn't on the applicant to provide an impact study, is that something that we can have done anyhow? And how would that be paid for? Like who would do that? Because I do think it's an interesting point, and I know that based on the laws of 40B, it probably can't impact our decision, but to Brad's point, the town needs to know.
Right, because to the point of just the presentation, it almost looks like it's going to be positive to the town 700K, but that is not necessarily the case. You know, it could
Right.
be.
It
but
would be
we
good to
don't
know.
Mhm, right. I mean, and, you know, there is that back to a 40B or, you know, even the lip, you know, where, you know, some of these things they say will outweigh the, the fact that we don't have enough affordable housing, that outweighs some of these things. But for us to make a decision where at some point down the road, you know, it would seem like we didn't do our due diligence if we didn't at least think of how it's going to impact the town, because people.
So how do we go about doing that? How, if the applicant isn't obligated to provide that?
I think it is tricky for the reason that was explained before about not allowing those kinds of impacts to be factored into the board's decision. So I believe Joe Pesnola, the board's 40B consultant, kind of gave that good explanation of how essentially, because Bolton has not constructed its fair share of affordable housing, you know, the state feels like the town is responsible for absorbing those other costs. So we're not able to ask the applicant for an assessment of town impacts, fiscal impacts. We could, I mean, I don't know what the best advice here is. If you're after, you know, trying to figure out what the impacts could be, perhaps it's an exercise best done after the public hearing process, after the decision, just for, you know, perhaps for some boards and committees such as advisory or the town administrator to understand and to look into how to prepare best for more families moving in.
Yeah, no, I think it's something we should look at. We have a hand up, Ted.
Yeah. Hi, Jerry. Hi, folks. I'm
Just
assuming,
for process-wise, identified name, address, you know, so that.
sorry, so this is Ted Barton, 35. I just want to offer a few thoughts, if I might. One, on the point that Valerie was just addressing, I would suggest that folks go back and look at the email from Brian Boyle, who is a neighbor who commented into the prior hearing. And I don't have it in front of me and I don't have it committed to memory, but the gist of what I took from that is that in the ZBA regs, there is a requirement for an applicant to enumerate impacts on town services. And it's something that apparently in a 40B case, the proponent typically asks to have waived, but the board does not need to do that. So I think you do have it in your power to ask the applicant to provide a financial assessment of the burden that the project would put on the community. And again, I'm not going to attempt to quote Brian's email verbatim, but it was short, but I thought very much on point for this. And I would suggest folks go back and take a look at that. And Brian is an attorney as opposed to me being an engineer. I'm not going to pretend to be, but it was useful.
Yeah, I think what's actually unfortunately happened is that it's come about that the ZBA is not able to have that as part of its application or rules and regulations. So in fact, the next time that we review those rules and regulations, we will need to take that out. So it's not something that the board can require or ask of applicants.
Apparently, yeah, the state has decided on several appeals that, you know, that's not a function that they want to have attached to the 40B process. I think on other types of development, maybe that's something that could be worked in, but, you know, the state has apparently been through several appeals and have, you know, whoever makes that final decision has basically ruled against, you know, asking for that information.
Well, that's unfortunate, but if I might, can I throw out a little bit more food for thought? And I want to go back to something, Bob, that you said in your discussion a few minutes ago on the looking at the school system, potential school system costs on a marginal cost basis. And I don't disagree that there are some costs, the examples you gave, the superintendent, and perhaps in the near to midterm, the building, that would not change. However, if Bolton adds potentially 40 or 50 or 60 kids to the school system as a result of this project, I think the cost impact is going to be a whole lot closer to 17,000 a kid, not 5,000 a kid. So, and I don't want to have a debate on that right now, but I think I think there's certainly a lot to be said for looking much more carefully at that point. And the little bit of data that was provided in the selectmen discussion, which was from Paddock Estates in Boxborough, is for a project that's roughly the same size, 244 units as opposed to 229, but it has markedly fewer 4-bedroom unit or 3-bedroom units rather. And in my mind, if somebody's going to rent a 3-bedroom apartment, it's likely because they have children. So I don't think that is necessarily an apples to apples comparison, and we shouldn't take that 38 school children number too much to heart. And I have two other points I want to make. One is at the last meeting, the proponent said, well, when I asked him about where did the $700,000 number come from, and he said, well, we explained that to the selectmen and we had information in our first submittal. I went back and looked at what was on the selectmen's website, and there is a single line that says this would provide $700,000 in tax revenue for the town, period. There's no discussion, no explanation. No nothing for that number, and including no mention of the fact that when you demolish half of the existing office building on the site, you're going to lose roughly half the tax revenue that property currently generates, which is, according to the assessor, $135,000 a year. So you're going to start by taking a hit of $65,000 or $70,000 to town tax revenue before you do anything with this project. And then lastly, and I don't want to go too long here, but since we have a month or so before the next meeting, I would suggest that folks go and take a look at the Town of Wayland website and read a little bit about the River's Edge project, which is another Wood Partners project. It's their most current one. And it's in a suburban town that's arguably somewhat comparable to Bolton. It's 218 units, so it's roughly the same size. It's on the site of the former town septic waste treatment plant in Sudbury. I don't know how many folks drive on Route 20, but it's right on the Wayland-Sudbury line, backs up to the former Sudbury dump. And the town of Wayland convinced the developer to pay $8 million for the site, which included about $6 million in cleanup costs. So the town got net about $2 million for this piece of property. They also negotiated for an $830,000 building permit fee because of presumably the special nature of the project. And they expect to see tax revenues in excess of $1 million a year on a project that is smaller than what's being discussed in Bolton. And on top of that, the project includes about 25% age-restricted units, which will have the benefit to the town of limiting the number of school kids from the project. So according to the information on the town website, they expect to see, after additional school and public safety costs, half of that $1 million to drop to the town's bottom line, if you will. So, you know, a pretty nice story from the town's perspective, and it got them to 11% affordable housing, got them into the safe harbor arena, which of course this project blows way by that. You know, we would be 15 or 16% affordable housing with this project. So I think it's worth taking a look at, and it, if nothing else, I think it gives the board some food for thought for further discussion with the developer. And it also tells me that a town's hands are not quite as tied as perhaps the development community would like you to think they are when they come in and propose a project of this type. So, but
Good points, Ted. Thanks for that. I'm going to look at it. That's for sure.
and I'll write up a few notes on this and send it in as an email. I apologize for not doing that in advance of the meeting, but I watched too much bad football this weekend. So
That would be great if we could get some more data on that, but I think, you know, at this point, I don't know how our consultant can, you know, help us out in that department as far as maybe nailing down some of these loose ends. But I don't know anyone on this board that probably has the, you know, background to be able to go after it much. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can say Ted to memorialize his comments. With all of those comments go, Joe Pisnola will be able to have access to, and we can engage Joe on, you know, that process of negotiation of, you know, should something, you know, be available that we should be looking at.
I would agree. I'd like to have Joe involved in that, at least have some kind of advocacy for our position. I mean, right now they're telling us what they're going to do, and we should like it and smile, but I'm not sure that we should be smiling all that much.
Right. So, well, that's right. It's a process, and Joe certainly has been helpful on other projects. So I anticipate he'll be a great resource on this one as well. So we're at the starting point, not the ending point. So that's good.
How many days have we used up so far? We got a 180-day window, so this is moving.
Yeah. Well, we've had we kicked it off on November 8th. So December, so we're like
May 7.
Yeah. So we got, you know, and just like the other, you know, we to extent we get closer to the deadline, you know, if we don't have all the information we need and we have decisions we have to craft and things like that, you know, if we would have to ask for an extension, we'd go that same route like we're doing with Mallard Lane, you know. So, but yeah, the May 7th is the date. This is Valerie just noted. So.
I'll just give one comment on funding. Is that with another nuance to 40B is that the developer is required to show their costs prior to kind of completion of construction. So they need to, there's essentially a certain threshold that they're not able to profit higher than.
Right.
So they are limited in their profits through a 40B, and the state is the body that kind of that holds them to that as well.
Right. So they do the formal pro forma that proves that they're a limited dividend. They can't meet greater than the 20% profit, you know, and anything like that would technically go back to the town if it was in excess of that. Correct. Yeah. So but that's further down the road, you know, yeah, so.
I always have problems with that. I mean, they give you a figure and how do you verify it? You know, so somebody takes, yeah, that's great. I mean, sorry, but I'm a little skeptical of those figures. They always lose money for some reason, but.
Or they make the profit just at the profit line, you know, so I mean, they're not gonna go into the project to lose money, so they're gonna make money. But, you know, and they're entitled to make money. I mean, you know, to extent they're going to help the town meet its affordable needs, and yes, they're gonna get subsidized for a portion of that, but, you know, they can't you know, but yeah, how do you scrutinize every cost? Yeah. Tough.
That's one of the flaws in 40B, because really I don't see you have an adequate handle on what their costs really are, but who's got the time or the expertise to chase it?
Right.
So Valerie, I have a question, and this is kind of random, but so I know that all of the units count for this, right? Because it's a rental property. So obviously, whatever, it's 200 or whatever units. So all of those count technically toward the affordable, whatever number of houses we had. If this project wasn't going through and we were just going to have, you know, developers come in and do houses, how many homes would need to come to Bolton to kind of reach that threshold? And maybe you can't even calculate that off the top of your head, but I'm just kind of like wondering what that would look like. Because, you know, I know we talk a lot about the impact, and obviously this project has a humongous impact and there's a lot that needs to be worked out. But at the same time, like, we have to hit that threshold eventually. So like, in some ways it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another, you know? So it's just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know. So that's how I'm kind of looking at it, but I'm just curious how many homes that would be.
The number of units has got to be somewhere like 180 or something like that. I mean, I forget. I mean, there's got to be a number. It's a percentage.
Because
so.
I think about it, like, nobody's coming in and doing like only affordable developments, right? Like Mallard Lane is like a portion affordable. So if you think 180, you know, units have to come in here, it's going to be way more than that from a developer's standpoint. And you know what I mean? I feel like in some ways this is a nice opportunity to meet that threshold so that the impact is limited. And again, I know it's not limited. I'm not trying to downplay the impact, but just, you know what I mean? Like, we have to do this, unfortunately, regardless. So it's like,
yeah, the catch-all is if you build, you know, single family houses under 40B, then the developer's only required to commit 25% of those housing units to affordable. Whereas the cities have gotten around it by declaring any apartment built in a 40B project counts as an affordable unit. So all of these units count because an apartment house, if it were a single family development, only 25% of them would count. So,
So
the way
I can
Boston skirts their obligation, quite frankly, it's something that the cities put in play, and you know, it works to their benefit, not to ours.
I can kind of try to answer your question a little bit more quantitatively. So Bolton has around 1,700, it's a little less than 1,700 housing units. Currently, about 69 of those are affordable. So we have about 100 to go to meet that 10%.
And every time people built a development, because unless people just had the altruistic mindset that we're just going to build affordable housing, which isn't going to happen. Every 3, you know, for every 10, only 3 are affordable, basically, you know. So so you're adding to your market rate stock. So at some point,
so you build like 500 homes to get that
500 units. Yeah,
Exactly right. Yeah.
You never really, it's not just like we need a certain amount.
And that's a huge impact. If you said we had 700 housing unit, I'm sorry, 1,700 housing units right now. Yeah.
Right. Approximately. Yeah. So this will get us there. I mean, but again, we want to make sure we're permitting the right amount, numbers.
Jerry, may I add a thought to that? I had for some information a couple of months ago about the town's stock of affordable housing, and I was interested in looking at that same question. Liz just asked. And there's no doubt that having a project like this where all the units count that's probably the best thing about this project, irrespective of any of the other points. It really enables the town to take a big step toward where we need to be. But just for sake of discussion, if you assume that once we have the 2020 census data, that the town has maybe closer to 1,800 homes instead of the current roughly 1,700. And if you were to build a 150 unit project, so you'd add 150 affordable units to our current 69, and you'd add 150 affordable units to the total count. So you'd be at 1,950. That would put us at a little over 11% affordable housing. So that gets us to the goal with a little margin.
Mhm.
Gives you an idea of how much smaller the project could be and still achieve that goal. Now at the full 229 units, we'll be up more like 15 or 16%. But that's
right.
Hopefully gives you some perspective for that.
Mhm. Right. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, the developer will probably claim that he can't afford to drop that many units because it will make the project unaffordable, and therefore, those are the problems. We have no way of verifying those, but
okay, so first the first big hurdle is, as we get the peer review to review the proposal and sort of, make sure to identify that, yes, there isn't something in it that would prohibit building that out at the current, and then, yes, there's always negotiations on what it be on the size, the density, but we certainly need more information between now and to that point where, where if we were to engage on the density side, but I think we first have to get our peer review started and get that done as far as the initial review to, highlight any impacts that are either too stretched, or when we get into the traffic area, when that gets reviewed, if that's really not minimal and it's something major, then maybe that's where we can, if it was necessary to look at density, say, well, yeah, the traffic's just, it's going to be a standstill. We need something less, and maybe as we get more of these analysis done, I think we'll have a better idea of what we're looking at a number.
well, in the next meeting, I guess we're supposed to have more data, or is
Yep.
this?
Yeah, the peer review, so we'll have the peer review analysis by Horsley Witten completed by the week of the 31st.
And what will be in there that will actually have impact rather than just environmental or site, what?
Well, I mean, I don't know, they're reviewing the application, so, I don't know what will be in there yet, but, it'll be a good starting point. I mean, there's definitely
Yeah.
the tires, right? And then they're not doing the traffic review, but they're hiring that consultant that we authorize them to hire to do the traffic. So we'll also be getting at some point their analysis, and so that's how we build this up.
That'll be in this round though, right? The traffic study too. Okay.
I believe so, but I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, the sooner we can get a hold of the traffic study, I think that will reveal a lot. I mean,
yeah.
Valerie, is it possible to ask the fire department for a statement? Have they seen anything yet? I know we got information back from some of the boards. I didn't know if we asked the fire department specifically or not. I don't think, I looked back in the packets and I don't think I saw anything from the fire department.
Right, because of chapter 40A, I have sent it to all departments that are required. I have not heard anything back from the fire chief. I think what is going to be useful in the coming, weeks or month here is to have a staff level meeting about the project and to discuss impacts.
Would be great.
Mhm.
That would be very helpful.
Okay, so,
We ready for a motion to continue the hearing?
yeah, I would think we are, unless anyone else has any final comments. Ted, is your hand up, or is that just,
I'm sorry, that was an artifact. I'm all set. So,
all right? So I think Bob chimed out, so to the extent everyone's said their piece, then yes, I think we're at a good point to have a motion to continue to February 1st, no, February 7th,
10th,
sorry, 10th.
10th.
February 10th at 6 PM.
Yeah, mhm.
I would make that motion.
Second,
Okay, perfect.
I got that as Brian. I don't know who it actually was, but
I'll third it. How's that?
okay. And those in favor, Brad Reed,
Aye.
Andy Kishitz,
Aye.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Gerard Ahern,
Yes,
and Gabrielle Amano.
Yes.
Thank you.
great. So we don't have any business. The minutes aren't available yet, so we'll have to schedule those at another time. And so with that, we can just adjourn at this point.
Good night.
All right.
Motion, do we need to motion that? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
And Gerard Ahern,
Yes,
Brad Reed,
Yes.
Andy Kishitz,
Yes.
Brian Holmes,
Yes.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Yes.
and Gabrielle Amano.
Yes.
Thank you.
well, thanks